Welcome back to the official podcast of the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust. On July 24th, 2025, President Trump signed a major policy-shifting executive order aimed at, quote, ending crime and disorder on American streets, end quote. Today, we're joined by Ron Book and Victoria Mallette to explore how these changes may or may not affect the proven strategies that the Homeless Trust has championed for years. Welcome back to the official podcast of the Homeless Trust. Joining us on set, Chairman Ron Book, Executive Director Victoria Mallette. Today, we're going to talk about all things politics, specifically the executive order that Donald Trump signed. This is the first president that I could remember who's had this type of focus on homelessness. For good or for bad, he seems to have a plan, and that plan is really different from what we've seen from other presidents and other political entities. So let's talk a little bit about the executive order. What does it say?
So there's definitely a shift in policy. We think there's going to be a new emphasis on transitional housing and outreach. The president's executive order discussed restoring order on our streets. And I think we can all relate to those photos we see on social media and elsewhere with people, actively shooting up on the streets or bend over, having a, drug-induced episode, people languishing in doorways and street corners. And I think the president is looking to innovate to address homelessness in a new way.
Yeah, the order is called the Ending Crime and Disorder on American Streets. And, we see those shots. America, that's the rest of America. Miami's very different, though. What we've been doing has been working. So how do you separate yourself out from this? And, we have a model. We have the Miami model. It works. We have the funding. We have the leadership. We have the plan. It's all in place, and it's been proven successful for a long time now. How do we export that?
Look, I think it's no secret that our plan has worked for all the reasons you've already described. A, we've got financial resources, and B, the leadership. And as we've said over the years, Tom, there are three things no matter where you are in America. You could be in Bangor, Maine, you could be in Seattle, Washington, you could be in Los Angeles, or any of the other myriad of communities around the country that have serious unhoused homeless issues. You got to have a plan, you got to have the financial and the leadership to make certain that A, the things you're doing are evidence-based, B, your outcome and performance measuring them, and not, if you will, simply throwing money at a problem, much the way, frankly, they've done in California. And I'm not big at criticizing other places, but
no, it's a good example. It is a fair example.
They've thrown money at the problem, billions and billions of dollars. They started in a very similar place 30 years ago to where we are. Again, it's spending in a judicious way, not deviating with a knee-jerk, a different policy or a different approach to things. Look, the administration not only treated our continuum well over the 4 years of the last Trump presidency, but treated continuums around the country the same way. I think we succeeded. We ended veterans' homelessness. We've been able to sustain it. Other communities have not. I think their message is, well, what we did last time may have helped here or there, but didn't help in that broader way. So let's try something else. Let's not, if you will, use the definition of insanity to define how we're going to end homelessness across America. You do the same thing over and over again, you get the same result. Let's try something different. So the fact of the matter is, the president has said, we're going to focus and protect our seniors. We're going to focus and protect our disabled. And oh, by the way, we're going to dump a ton of resources into services in an attempt to try to get a better, more stable population in our shelters, on our streets, more accessible to come in and solve problems. We have historically taken challenges and turned them into advantages. We have been working on plans if you will, meet them where they want us to meet them. We're waiting on more information. We're waiting on more, if you will, meat on the bones on how to access those additional dollars and what are they really going to do to help us maintain those seniors and those disabled individuals in the housing we've had them in for a very long period of time.
Now, the Homeless Trust provides leadership, and policy to our local governments, but you also provide leadership to all of the provider network that you guys fund. These folks have been doing what they've been doing the way they've been doing it for a very, very long time, and everybody hates change. So when we hear things like, "Oh my God, they're doing away with housing first," we can't. The president doesn't like continuums. How are you keeping the calm with your providers, as opposed to how are you stopping them from freaking out?
I mean, I would argue that our providers are already nimble and pivot on a dime whenever we see a challenge that we must tackle. So I don't think they're shuddering. I think there is concern about the fact that words like permanent supportive housing aren't being used anymore, because we do have 5,000 highly vulnerable people who were once on the street who are now stably housed with considerable wraparound services provided by the continuum through US HUD. We want to make sure that those individuals don't return to homelessness. But beyond that, I think that we have a continuum that's highly coordinated. This is probably one of the reasons we find ourselves in such a successful place compared to other continuums. We're highly coordinated and are constantly thinking out of the box together with our providers, getting their feedback on what else can we try, what else can be doing. And we do that not only at the macro level, but the micro level. We can have conversations in a week about individual people at the leadership level of the Homeless Trust, even though it is our frontline outreach workers who are engaging with that individual. And we are connecting the dots and connecting that individual to the services he or she wants and needs so that we can help get them off the street.
And let me take that one step further. Nothing that the president has said or done, or shall we say, the think tank known as the Cicero Foundation, which is where so much of this has been think tanked, and fed into Project 25, fed into what the administration is looking at. But then it's changing our plan to continue to acquire properties and manage our population. Just this week, we welcomed the first 48 residents at Hideaway on the Bay, the former La Quinta Hotel in Cutler Bay. We're continuing with renovation plans at the Chrome property we've acquired. Nothing is changing those plans. Those plans provide housing for our population. We're on a mission to grow our inventory of units of housing that we own and control debt-free, so that the rent roll will become the capital expenditure fund, so that we are not taking people in and then putting them back out because they can't afford to stay. Whole idea of that business plan of housing people in property we own is to make sure we can sustain it for decades to come, and nothing in the president's plan is going to change that. We're going to continue to move in that direction, and we encourage people who want to be philanthropic in the community and help us continue to acquire property and renovate through adaptive reuse. Please reach out to us. Please call us. We need your help. We need your support. That first $43 million was a down payment on the properties we've acquired. We need more.
You guys recently sent out a letter in response to the executive order that the president signed. You sent it to your board. It outlines 8 different strategies that are already underway. You want to walk me through those so that we could get those out there and so people understand that there is a plan in place?
Yeah, I think the impetus for the letter was to say, things are shifting in federal policy on how we address homelessness, but we were never a one size fits all continuum to begin with. We were already, as the chairman stated, looking to acquire and renovate properties. We were already deploying new and specialized outreach teams. We were already creating beds for a highly vulnerable, severely mentally ill population so that they could transition into something more appropriate at the right time. There was already a menu of options that we continue to add to every day, not focused solely on just housing, but the service components as well, a whole swath of interventions, if you will, to assist people. So when I see the shift coming, I take it as a challenge. It brings additional urgency to the table. I would say the one thing that most individuals in the homeless arena realize, and many other people too, you cannot criminalize your way out of homelessness. So if this is headed towards a criminalization strategy where we think we're going to lock everyone up, it's not going to work. It's going to cost money and your outcomes may not be improved. So the goal is to help people come off the streets and stay off the streets, and behind bars doesn't necessarily solve the issue of mental illness or substance abuse, which has so many people, too many people in its grips.
Look, you mentioned 1365. Let's be clear. The number of complaints that we've received are infinitesimal. I think all of us expected more, but I think it's a testament to our efforts to ongoing work the streets and bring more people in every single day. And I think we're succeeding at doing that. Again, the challenge is how do you take the resources and the resource shift of the current administration and make that, if you will, consistent with your goal of reducing your unhoused population on the streets. And in part, if you stabilize people that are on the streets, they're obviously going to be more susceptible to coming inside.
Yeah, I think that the trust has done a really good job over the years of educating the general public that homelessness is not a city beautification issue. It's not, we need to get rid of the garbage and sweep it to the other side. This is really a human condition issue that involves a lot of care and sensitivity, and these people need to be cared for, not disposed of. And I think that's been a huge success here. How much are your efforts now being nimble, given the executive order? How much are they being complicated, if at all, by the Dojification of Florida and the governor sending letters to our mayor and Broward's mayor and questioning funding sources?
I would argue we have always been transparent. We have nothing to hide. I think the chairman will tell you what's his favorite word, cheap and frugal. What's his favorite phrase, free. So we're always looking to provide value and efficiency to people in the community. The other thing I would add is, at the end of the day, we're fierce advocates for people experiencing homelessness, but we are not blind to the quality of life issues of greater Miami-Dade County. We are products of this community. We live in Miami-Dade County in South Florida. We love this community. We were born and raised here. We work here and we play here. So, we certainly can see the concerns of business owners, the concerns of residents, and we don't take that lightly either. We are advocates at the end of the day for people experiencing homelessness, but we're not blinded to, the optics of homelessness on the streets of our community.
My motto, free is my favorite word, cheap and frugal my favorite phrase. Look, our job is to manage the resources that are provided to us. They're limited. We don't have a bottomless pit of cash. I think that what separates us from a lot of continuums and a lot of others around the country is, number one, we do get audited. Number two, we pay attention to where we spend our money, what limited resources we have. Has our budget grown dramatically? It has. But I think that We are known to take the elastic band out and stretch it as far as we can stretch it. We had a provider in town a year ago that decided that they were not as enthusiastic as in the past about being in the shelter business. And we've always believed that we would be the first money into our providers to leverage philanthropic donors to help manage the balance of the expense of sheltering individuals. They believed they could leverage us and almost triple what our per diem rate is. We couldn't afford to do that, and I wasn't going to do that. And the threat of eliminating beds, which they carried out on, wasn't enough to get me to relent, if you will, and open up the purse strings to what would have otherwise been a $10 million plus recurring hit to our budget, which would have taken $10 million plus out of what I had to grow, bringing more people in and getting more people off the streets. I'm not doing that. What has made us different is we don't knee-jerk respond to change. We don't change our plans like at the drop of a dime, if you will. If there's a reason to amend our plan and it's well thought out and we believe that it will create greater results for us, then we'll do that. But otherwise, we're not. We're just not. And you know what? Everybody said that adversity, we were going to be in trouble. Well, you know something? We're about to open up an 80-bed navigation center, which will connect people immediately to services, move them into shelter, move them directly to housing. These new housing units coming on board down in the Cutler Bay area, going to be a big deal to us. I think that at the end of the day, we're never going to be irresponsible in how we guard those limited assets. Doge wants to come doge us, bring them on. I'm happy to open up our books and continue to show the level of transparency that Ms. Mallette has just described, because we don't hide from it. We hang our budget out there for people to look at. We have public meetings on our budget. The county commission holds budget hearings that include our budget in that budget, if you will. I'm proud of what we have, and I haven't seen any letters of criticism about how we spend our money.
Last thing, as the landscape shifts politically and you guys get your feet underneath you and you figure out where things are, what do the people at home need to know? How can they help stabilize things? And is there a role for private citizens and private companies as you guys are moving forward?
Vicki, you want to start? I'll have something to add, but go ahead, please.
I mean, I would go back to the point that I said. I want people at home to know that we understand quality of life issues in this community, and it is our goal to be responsive when the community calls on us to address a homeless situation, to be there to address it, but also to show the utmost compassion to the people experiencing homelessness so we can get them to a better place.
We need more help. We need more help. And more help, Miami Foundation, hit the link for the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust, whether it's $5 or it's $5 million or it's any amount of money that you're willing to commit to help us, if you will, help those who otherwise cannot help themselves. We need you. We need your help. We need your support. We've demonstrated very clearly that we manage those financial resources in a very responsible way.
Well, there you have it. Thank you for joining us, Ron Book, Victoria Mallette. We'll see you next time on the official podcast of the Homeless Trust.